What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's your man, King A.D.S, out here in the Inland Empire with another good feeling type of vibes, sharing type of video. You know how I do up here if you know me already. I'm an artist out here in the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. It's kind of warm today, but not too warm. And I just want to share that radiance with you guys whenever I can. You know what I'm saying? Specialize in hip hop, rock music, alternative stuff like that, and as well as electronic. I just love to do all kinds of stuff, but I got my starts off in the roots of hip hop, and stuff like that. And man, I'm just having a good day today. I just didn't know where to start. There's a few directions I need to take, normal life stuff, and then trying to get the word out, and then hopefully be creative in the day at the same time. But man, just wanted to get up here and get the opportunity to communicate with you out here in the community, right? So man, right now I was vibing off of another YouTuber. I think his name is Dwayne B, as well as others out there. But man, he was cooking on his live stream, so I've been enjoying that too. And it's about like music history and hip hop history and how people aren't getting certain things straightened out, getting certain facts and everything, like in details and things. And I do believe I'm an individual, aside from the podcast, I'm saying, and I'm an individual that does believe in trying to get the story straight as possible, or get the facts as much as possible. And I'm not without fault. I'm somebody who likes to learn, but often there's always more I can learn, or maybe I get distracted or pulled away from things, so I can't always have the whole story. But nevertheless, I'm not someone who thinks, or I would rather say, I'm not someone who thinks they know everything either. Once I learn something, I know there's always more to know, and so humble in that aspect, you know what I'm saying? And but nevertheless, man, he was over here cooking. And when it comes to like hip hop and stuff like that, I believe, from when I was growing up, of course I come from New York, so I thought, it comes from New York, right? And then I heard it was Jamaican influence, so on and so forth. But then also in that history, you have people that have added, not added, but reintroduced and made sure that is documented that there are some brothers from the South too, right? So the South culture with different musical styles and different cultures that kind of commingled and intermixed. And I think that possibly it's a bit of all three. Maybe it's cats that were from Jamaica or something to that nature, that in the South, and then over time, and then maybe from the East Coast. But I could see how it could kind of mix up, you know what I mean? How it can kind of commingle and mix and grow. And also some of the stuff that I found was interesting, that I always remembered certain songs that influence modern hip hop of today being live music first. So those things were, without giving away my age too much, right? Like, but those kind of things are kind of like what I would expect at any turn. And the gentleman, Dwayne B, had brought up that Questlove should be known as one of the best beat makers in all of hip hop because he actually plays the drums. You know what I mean? And I'm like, from that standpoint, absolutely, yeah, I think that's accurate. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, just saying that it's interesting, it's cool. Just love to see people vibing and digging and growing and always expressing that and sharing that, because that's how we move forward. And remembering where you come from is important, no matter who you are or what you do, right? And getting the whole story, not just parts of stories, but getting the whole story straight, so things kind of can make a little bit more sense, right? So like there's times I try to touch on things that I find interesting or weird, or you know what I mean? But or sometimes it'll be interesting things that line up from events in history too. But I don't, I'm not never gonna get up here. I'm a music guy, so it's not like my thing to get up here and be like I'm a historian now too, and all that stuff. But I just try to share what I can the best I can, and I'm happy to do so. You know what I mean? And big shouts to you if you're on your journey, and especially in these times too, getting the story straight and remembering where you come from as an individual, yourself, what's inside of you, not just saying, from history and, events that may have unfolded, but also just who you are, like how you started, what fascinates you, and what gets you to a point of that positive vibe and where you accomplish things and everything like that, like what gets you there, right? So remember where you come from so you can hone your guns, or maybe if it's even something that you're learning now but will be a go-to from that point forward, right? So just remembering where you come from is kind of like, I guess that's the message in the air for me today. So I guess I'm sharing that. Maybe you're the same today and we're having a similar vibe. It makes, when I hear other people, that are that like that's their jam, it inspires me to revisit things and absorb some more information. Like I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Who is that? And now I get interested on that, who that individual was or what was taking place in that time period. So because it feeds the creative energy as well as a logical thinking process as well, like how things will fall in place. And so in these trying times, I think that, yeah, it's definitely good to remember the energy that gets you to a up elevated state, or it gets you to where you were going, or that energy that you had. Like maybe you worked really hard and you accomplished a lot, and then it's all threatened to be lost, or like maybe you did lose it, right? Like, and you got to like somehow gather up this magical essence to defeat these challenges once again, like, so like I think it's always important to remember how you can energize. You may do it through exercise or meditations, or some other things. And even an example, like people, that UFC fight that just happened with like Justin at the White House, was that the White House joint. And the kid, what's his name, Elio Taporia and Justin Ganchi. And I'm sorry, I hope I didn't butcher the last name. I apologize if I did. Usually doesn't happen too often, but I think Ganchi, right? So, but yeah, I think that Ganshi was victorious because he was able to stick to a virtue that he developed while in that atmosphere and formed to it, and then used that as a go-to as he progressed, and he used that as his pillars. So he was kind of remembering where he's come from that grit that got him to the point where he can maintain and be an effective like an effective fighter, like a great fighter. And then Ilio Taporia, I don't know, maybe he just kind of lost those pillars that got him to where he was so efficient, and so accurate, just doing his thing so on point. And maybe that's kind of like what was the difference. So always remembering, like, some people were looking at some of the clips, like the replays, and they're saying, look how he didn't use any of his technique. Isn't that strange? Like he just started getting, it looks like he's irritated, and or he's trying to prove a point, and he's headhunting. He's headhunting, right? He wants to knock him out with this shot, this, basically some glory, but like a clip, like a highlight roll, right? Like a reel. But instead, it ended up going against him with someone who was betting on being, put through the ringer, because he's been put through the ringer. So he used that as his pillar to weather the storm and also pick his shots and actually use technique, which Topuria would usually use, which was, so it was interesting to see. But yeah, so at that point, maybe for some weird reason, unexplainable, but maybe they just forgot those things for a minute that allowed them to do what they do so well, and losing their way for just a moment made a whole world of difference, which also big shouts and hats off to both of those fighters. I know they'll probably never see this video, but hats off to both of them. They're both very talented, very amazing, talented, and the best of wishes to Elio Taporio's recovery. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a while. I know about having some injuries, man. I know about that. It's been a long journey already, and other things that have seemed to have lost their way that people are noticing, that I like to mention from time to time, is like corporatism and greed type of things, right? Like how, I remember watching a show, Top Gear, where they had the old school one though, with, over in the UK, and there was an episode where, I hope I don't piss anybody off, but there's a certain manufacturer of a vehicle, and they mentioned that this company has mastered the art form of giving you less and charging you more. And I thought that was hilarious, because it's total like sleazeball, corporate, the dollar, the bottom line only matters type of language, and it sounds so familiar because you got to remember, see, through a certain time period of the '80s, people used to talk about this same type of personality, and you could see it expressed in like a lot of the movies and a lot of the characters that are in the movies and stuff like that, or some of the songs, that are created in pop culture because of things like that. And it's like kind of like how in Jurassic Park is a life finds a way, but these guys also, it always seems to find a way. And people were just I saw another video where people were just taking notice to that. And that's also, I think, a form of something losing its way, right? When it goes for profit over the purpose and loses its authenticity and its attraction to things, like its relationship with things, like its connectivity, because it becomes about something else, which was at first a place where people could. I did another video talking about another video, but talking about how people would identify with certain things, and it gives it personality, which is also something that you hold in your memory for nostalgia, which is something that's nice to revisit from time to time, or to have an experience, right, that you can connect with and identify and things like that. And those things do matter. Whatever you're doing, right, it kind of puts your mark on it, and that puts the mark on the world in a sense. But yeah, so I feel like some of those things, like I said, I'm always just trying to do my best, guys, bear with me. But like, kind of loses its way, like the original creator creates it in its purest form, and then it meets the rest of us, right? So as soon as someone takes the money from the outside, like the soup, like the big time investor or whatever, like they're talking about private equity investors and stuff, like, but then it kind of loses its face and loses its personality, right? And it just becomes a vessel, like possessed vessel, that's used for the bottom line, like, so they cut quality or cut quantities, or cut policies or change policies, or change, rearrange things, and then it no longer feels like the place that you were familiar with, which can be nice. Sometimes you like a place, like that show Cheers, they say you want to come to a place where everybody knows your name, so yada, right? That song and everything. So I think that's people like that, you know what I mean? So when you take that away, it loses its authenticity, and you don't feel comfortable. You just kind of feel like you're just there for that purpose. Transactional, there you go, transactional, right? And everybody's been talking about that, like with relationships and friendships. It seems like people become more transactional, which we've lost our way in a sense, like forgetting how special each and every single one of us are, and how unique we are, and how it's good to have more options, and how the corporatism type of thing too comes into your area. And when they open up this big store, all the other stores seem to disappear eventually, so you kind of have a portion of jobs versus a scattered amount of places that can hire the other people too. So what you have is like this weird shift, like where it looks good for a while, and then it kind of, then it flip-flops, like people are working at the bigger place, but not as many that were employed while the little places were still around too. People with specialties, people with good ideas, and also people who are doing a great innovative and authentic work, quality work and stuff like that. So instead of cutting costs, with materials and different things like that, and expertise and things, which sucks the life out of the not just the trade, but also your area. You know what I mean? And I brought these things up before, you know what I mean? Like I touched on, I mean, like, but I'm an artist. I just take notice. So I'm also a business person too. I wouldn't say I'm the best at you know, anything in the world, right? I don't look at myself as I'm the best. I don't have that. I kind of see it like a delusion, like, but I don't have that. There's always more to know. There's always something I could try better at. And so I'm always getting up here. That's part of the, I always say that's part of the reason I get up here and I try again and again and again, because I at least want to pick up something and try to communicate better. I feel communication is maybe one of my strongest suits, so I like to use that. And let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, also a lot of things happening, right? Clive Davis just passed away, which is another example of things losing their way and how to get the story straight to straighten things out. But yeah, this guy got turned into, whoever has good feelings about that guy, it's a unique circle there, but did a lot of bad things, you know what I mean? So but his passing is only and created another monster too in the process, unfortunately, right? And who knows how many others. And people are like, oh, it's great that they're gone now. Which I don't know how I feel about saying it's great someone's gone, but just trying to say that the other people's expressed sentiment that maybe things can change. The problem is it's just a vessel being used for some means to an end, right? So it seems that they're grooming another person to be this type of individual. You would probably have another one. It's kind of like how the concept of the Nazis dissolving and becoming Hydra in Marvel's lore, right? So you cut off one head, you have another one, blah, blah, blah. So that's where it gets kind of tricky there, getting the story straight into the history and delvings of like who owns what and shares and tries to invest in what. It would be very important, like who's on first, second, and third, to understand who's been pulling strings, and that would be a way to make change, or just a pure deviation from that as the public starts to realize that everywhere they go they're just being fleeced, and maybe just start to check out alternatives. Whether those alternatives will not meet any friction, as we know they will, is something to be undetermined. Like how much friction will they meet, just trying to reach out as another option or an individual to express and connect and communicate with you, just with the God-given freedom that we all have, or a given freedom that we all have. So, but nevertheless, yeah, man, lots of things happening. He passed away. Needless to say, yes, I do agree that there was energy shift out here. And it does seem to follow what I was talking about before with the threes into the fours, with the understanding. We're in this time of understanding as the beginning of the year, the first of the year, the whole entire thing equaled three. And that's understanding. And it looks like we're trying to get the story straightened out now, which is culture. So we will start remembering who we are, which I also find interesting because that seems to be the way it's going. It's not like I live every day of every moment of every day by these types of things, but when they happen or play out around me in that nature, it does make me raise an eyebrow, and I think it's pretty interesting. So naturally after that, the power struggle. I've watched other people talk about this stuff, and they say they predict a new power struggle. So that would be the five, right? So these things from this year will go into next year as regaining the culture and figuring out where to aim that energy, most likely, is what it seems like. And then I think we'll probably press forward from there, you know what I mean? As a voice, as a unified voice, possibly, you know what I mean? Because it seems like the wave is traveling now. And as they say, if you want something to change, just you need not to do more than express it to the ether. In other words, say it out loud, right? And mean it, right? But it does seem like a shift. So culture, knowing where to direct that energy, and then into the power struggle. But then after the five is the six. So if it does go this way, it'll be really weird. So it'll be cool too, because then six is equality, right? Six would be equality. So after equality, we have the seven, and I think the seven is a universal representation just about almost anywhere. And I think you know what that is. And if you didn't know, that's the representation of the all, or the almighty, or the God, right? So there you go. But I think I'll end the video on that note. I hope you found it interesting. I hope that I connected with you. I hope that you like spending time with me, because I always like spending time with you and doing these little videos and pushing myself to try and pushing myself to commit and follow through, which is also important, So yeah, man, just gonna put my head down, keep working hard. Got a lot of music coming. Hope you enjoy all the content. Check out the catalog. Check out the King A.D.S catalog. Check out Legacy Family. Check out the Almighty Grind. Check out the Bar Sweat and Years mixes. Check out Theta Mob. Check out Cosmic Rock Box. And I hope I didn't leave anything out. And till the next episode, y'all, much love. Peace.